Greetings, everyone. This is Razvie, the main man, Ramos, welcoming you to another edition of the Razvie RAMOS main talk show. And today I'm going to have a special treat with you. I'm going to be interviewing the Legend of Washington, DC horror hosting Dick Dyszel. So I'm waiting for him to hop on so we can get started. Waiting for my Zoom. Okay. So we're gonna audience star. Zoom. Waiting for my guest to hop on. Yes, I want to add guests. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to do something here because I'm an old man.
Mm-hmm.
I never admit that. But I don't want to sit there and have to hold up this phone the whole time.
All right. Welcome to the main talk.
Talk.
I am talking.
There you go. I wanted to adjust the volume. Yes. It's so good to have this. This is the guy you really wanted to talk to. This is the guy, right?
So, how did you get in the broadcasting game?
Wow. I think I always really wanted to be in it. I was a big television fan from the time I was a kid. I grew up in a small one-bedroom apartment, and the television set was in was in the dining room, which was my room. And I watched television from the time I was 3 years old, and I love the medium. And I wanted to get involved in initially radio because I thought rock and roll was cool. And I'm afraid my phone, don't let it drop. So I wanted to be a rock and roll DJ, and I eventually went to school, Southern Illinois University, and they had a radio and television department. And I worked my way into radio and then into television, and then I kind of fell into being a vampire because I happened to have a cape and a tuxedo.
So you're best known as Count Gordeval.
That is correct. That is correct. And the reason for that is very simple, because I own the character. When I worked in Paducah, Kentucky, and I went as a vampire there as a different name. When I got to Washington, we needed to come up with a new name and a new character, and I really, really wanted to do this. Let me back up. When I was very happy in Paducah, but I was overworked because I was doing multiple things. The vampire thing was just one of them. And it was Bozo the Clown. I also played Bozo the Clown, and Bozo the Clown took me to Washington from the 77th to the 8th Market. You know, I mean, this was a big jump. But I wanted to do the vampire, so we had to come up with a new name. So we came up with a new name, and Count Gord Duvall. And as soon as everyone approved all this, I got it in writing that this is my character. I own the character. I own the name. I own all the intellectual property rights. I own all the merchandising rights. And so here I am.
Are you more recognized as Count Gord Duvall or Captain 20?
Well, you know, it kind of really depends on the age of the person. A lot of Captain 20 had a bigger audience. This thing is going to fall down. Oh, there we go. Captain 20 had a huge audience because he was on all day, every half hour. Captain 20 was there running a contest, giving away prizes, had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of kids watching. Count had maybe 50, 60, 70,000 people on Saturday night. But those kids grew up to watch. They outgrew Captain 20 and became Gore fans, and it just piled on. And then when we hit the internet in 98, by the way, I just found out, I didn't realize this. I beat Google on the internet. I just found out today, Google didn't come on the internet until September of 98. And I was on in July of 98. So boom, there you go, Google. What can I do? Anyway, so yeah. Where was I? Well, yeah, we were just, yeah, the count probably, right now the count has more popularity because Captain 20, I mean, he's not seen anymore. I mean, you know that as being a podcaster. If you're not there, if you're not on, people are going to forget about you, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So you know what you got to do is you got to keep pumping it out to let people know, and right now all the time we were on Channel 20. We never did live events. Now I do live events, particularly I come back to Washington, and we're going to do one in October later this month. We're going to live host Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So yeah, cool.
At the AFI Silver Theater.
Yep, that's it. Great theater. My God, 425 seats in the main auditorium. It's all beautiful Art Deco, and they can project anything, and it's on this huge CinemaScope screen. Oh, I love it.
Were you ever into horror before you got to I'm sorry, I'm just starstruck here.
Calm down. I was ever into horror. Yeah, I mean, I grew up. I used to watch horror movies. As a matter of fact, I had a horror host in Chicago where I grew up. His name was Marvin. He was a beatnik, believe it or not. That's kind of a strange thing. He had big Coke glass, Coke bottle eyeglasses that were kind of tinted, and he had this beautiful. Oh, he had this blonde woman on his show called Deer. That was his gig. We never saw her face. Only saw it from the back. She had a beautiful behind and a lovely figure, great hair. Whenever she turned around, as soon as she started turning around, he'd put a paper bag on her head. So, we never saw her. She was actually very lovely. Anyway, so I was 10 years old, and my parents weren't exactly thrilled with me watching late night horror, so I would let them go to sleep, and then I'd get up and take a pillow with me, go downstairs, turn the TV on. That's when the TV tuners went click, 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 click. As I put the pillow over the tuner, go click, 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 and we'd watch the horror movies on Saturday night. Yeah, I liked horror. I like science fiction. I'll be honest with you, and I've said this now probably more than I should. If I had given a choice between, like a really great horror movie and a really great science fiction movie, I'd watch a science fiction movie first, but I'd watch the horror movie second. Um, I'll tell you, the one show that I've really loved that's horror related just finished its fourth and final season, and that was Evil. And I just thought that was an awesome show because it had this great, it had a great bit of humor in it, but it also had this great supernatural aspect that I thought was really great. Nice mix.
So, how did Count Gordeval get his name?
Okay, that for a long time was one of those things that people kept saying, well, how did you get that name? First of all, it's not related to Gore Vidal, the writer. Not that I'm aware of, because I never read any of his works. But here's the exact story of what happened. Okay, we are coming down to the bottom wire. They finally approved that we're going to do the Saturday Night Horror thing, but we needed to come up with a name. So I was called into the general manager's office, and he was the stumbling block. He didn't want to do this. But I was really insistent, and the program director finally got on board. So we said, okay, we need to come up with a name. And I said, well, I'm easy. What do you want? What do you want? He says, we need something with some gore in it. I said, hey, how about this? How about Count Gore? And he thought for a second, and he said, I like it, but we need more. You need more. What more do you need? I'm thinking Count Gore's fine. This is perfect. You know, it's a very simple, direct. And finally, I got so frustrated. I was leaning against the wall. I mean, it was a small room. I was like, so I turned around. And I said, like, how about something off the wall? How about something off the wall, like Duvall? How about Count Gore Duvall? And he said, I like it. Let's use it. Now, where did that come from? Was it just because I said off the wall and Duvall was like that? Could be. Was it the fact that there was a book by Gore Vidal on his desk, which I saw later? It could be. Probably not, but could be. Or was it that every day on the way to the station, to and from, I passed the Duvall funeral home? So that's probably how it came about.
So let's talk about your little painting in the back. Can you tell us a little history about it?
Yes. This is the official portrait. This was given to me in 1975 by a young lady. She was a junior high school student. She was enamored with me. And I have to admit, she didn't look junior high, but that's okay. We're all very adult here and very professional. Anyway, she comes up she sent in a note saying, my mother will paint a portrait of the Count and give it to you free of charge if I can present it to you on your show. She wanted to get on TV. She wanted to be an actress. She wanted to be a star. Who am I to stop her? But I thought this was a prank. So I sent her a snapshot, a little Kodak snapshot that's kind of out of focus, and said, well, here, you can use this as a model. And I forgot about it. A couple months later, get a phone call. The portrait's ready. When can I bring it on? Oh my God. All right. So I'm thinking this is gonna be like maybe a stick figure kind of thing. So I'm getting into makeup in the exclusive Channel 20 men's room. Small station, big market. Okay. And my director comes in and says, there is this incredible blonde out there with this absolutely gorgeous picture of you, and she has her mother with her. I said, well, that's good because she's not old enough to drive. So sure enough, it turns out the actual artist who did this was Lorraine Stoffen-Herman, who at that point was the official portrait artist for the state of Maryland. She did all the governor's portraits, and she did all sorts of famous people portraits. She was a big name in Maryland. I didn't know. What do I know about this, you know? So that's where it came from. She came on the show. She presented to me on the show. We had a good time. I ended up being in 2 low-budget movies with her, Night Beast and Alien Factor, as she grew up. We became good friends, got to know her and her first husband very well. And just matter of fact, just this past summer we spent a couple of days visiting her. She's moved down to Williamsburg, and so we spent a couple of days with her and her husband down there. And she's just a wonderful person, very talented. She speaks like 8 languages. She's a writer. She's had 7 or 8 kind of interesting, sexually oriented medieval novels out, and she's just a delightful person. But anyway, Eleanor Herman, and she's been on my show. Matter of fact, we had a running joke starting in 2000. In 2000, we went back. In 2000, Channel 20 hired me to come back and do the Millennium Show. It was the 1999 to 2000 show, okay? And I said, well, I'll do it, but I want to have guests on. They said, that's fine, we can have guests. They had to recreate the set. We had to hire a crew that knew how to do live television. And we had Eleanor on. And then it started then that the Count would be after the Countess. She was Countess von Stauffenberger. And the Count would chase her, and he would never be able to quite catch her. And that's every year she would come on the show, and we'd just about say, okay, well, let's get it on. And something would interrupt us. And it was a running gag for like 12, 15 years. So, yeah.
So, I'm a horror host myself.
Good.
I play a character named Dr. Centauro.
Ooh.
He's a voodoo man.
A what?
A voodoo man.
Tell me about it.
I have a show on Rumble, which is another video sharing site. It's called Voodoo Theater. I show scary movies, public domain. And you and Svengoolie, Rich Coes, were my inspirations.
Ah, Rich. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm honored. I really am thrilled. As you know, and a lot of your audience probably isn't aware of this. When we do these shows, whether it be a podcast, a television show, it's even if it's live and we're talking to someone, this gives you some feedback. But when you're doing a TV show, there's no feedback. You've got a studio, you've got 2-3 cameras, you've got a camera person behind each camera, and a floor director. That's big time. That's the way it used to be. Anyway, now everything's automated, but that's okay. But you don't get any feedback. You have no idea what kind of impact you're making. And that could go on for decades. I mean, it's only once the internet came up that I finally find people writing me and say, well, you had this kind of impact. You did this. And they gave me feedback. As a matter of fact, funny story. I was very frustrated by the fact that on TV you get no feedback. So I go into my program director's office and I said, Jim, I need to know who my audience is. I said, we do this every Saturday night. I need to know who is out there watching. And you have these rating books and they have demographics in them. I want you to grab that book and you tell me who my audience is. And he reaches over and grabs a Nielsen rating book, opens it up, lights a cigarette, leans back in his chair, kicks his cowboy boots up on his desk, takes a deep drag, says, Dick, according to this, your audience is half female and half stoned. And that was my audience. Whenever I went into the studio, looked at those cameras, and half of the camera was female, half was stoned. This is the 70s, so you have to take that into consideration. But anyway, tell me about this Rumble. I'm not familiar with it.
Rumble is a video sharing site.
That's RUMBLE?
Yes.
And is it .com?
Yes.
All right. I have to go. I'm not aware of this. I'm gonna have to go look at it. I have to see you. And how do you spell
I'll send you a link.
Send me a link. Send me a link. I love watching shows from other people. I can steal from you freely. No. Actually, I'll tell you what. One of the strange things about being a horror host before the internet was the fact you hear about these other people in these other markets. But unless you visited the market, you'd never see them because videotape was so damn expensive that no one would ship it around, and they're heavy. I mean, so the only way I knew about Elvira when she came on in the 80s was because she was doing those Coors commercials. So, okay, there's Elvira. And then when I went on the internet on July 11th, 98, and people started finding me, and I was the first, I will hold that. Other horror hosts started finding me. And now we could visit each other and see each other's shows. And it was great because there was no competition. This was like more of a sharing thing. Like, hey, that was pretty cool. You mind if I use it? Go ahead. So pretty soon, we were all doing variations on a theme that they might have seen that we could change and make it work for us. It's like almost like being a stand-up comedian and being in Saturday Night Live, pulling stuff from people and then remaking it in your own image. Kind of cool.
Thank you so much for being on the show. It's a huge honor to have you on.
Are we done? I was just getting started. Tell me, wait, before I go, tell me a little bit more about your show.
Well, I don't have a set. I just dress up in costume that I got from Spirit Halloween.
Okay.
And I just show the movies.
What do you do with the movies? Okay. How do you approach showing the movies? That's what I want to know. What's your approach to the movies?
I say, welcome to Voodoo Theater. I'm Dr. Santoro. And tonight's feature film is the movie that I'm showing.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about a little bit about the history of the movie.
Good.
And in the middle, and then at the end, I say, wasn't that a ghoulish feature?
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. I just break it down into 3 parts.
Okay, yeah, that's good. You don't want to overdo it.
Yeah. Because I'll be honest with you, I actually despise Elvira.
Some people do.
And
I have great admiration for her. She's a great businesswoman. I do like her, and she is a very talented person.
She is talented. I just don't like the character.
Okay.
And there have been other horror hosts that I've watched, Cremation Mortem, that from Kansas City, that I actually did enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Rich Coe's Svengoolie, Jerry J. Bishop's Svengoolie. They got me into this.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So I said, hey, this looks kind of fun. So I felt like doing it.
I people ask me a lot of times, how do you decide what you're going to say and do about a movie? And I'm sure you face that all the time. You have a movie, let's say, pick, what's one of your favorite movies?
One of my favorite movies is the, of all time, or?
No, that you show, public domain.
Oh, Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead. All right. Wow. Now, so how do you decide what you want to do with Night of the Living Dead? What do you want to pick out of that to convey to your audience?
I talk about a little bit the history of the movie.
Okay, good.
I say, did you know Tom Savini was supposed to do the makeup, but at the time he was in Vietnam?
I didn't know that. Thank you. Let me make note of that. All right, what else?
I also said that there have been tributes to this movie. There was that famous scene in 976 Evil 2 where they merged another public domain movie, It's a Wonderful Life, with Night of the Living Dead, and I actually hated that scene in that movie.
Did you ever interview or talk with John Russo, the producer of the film?
Of Night of the Living Dead, or what?
Yeah, Night of the
No,
Living Dead.
I never interviewed him.
Yeah. Do you do conventions even out of character?
I go to Halloween parties as a character, but I am going to conventions as a character to promote the show.
Well, that's good. That's a good place.
That's what I want to do.
But when you do that, you get a chance to pick some people's minds. For example, John Russo, nice guy.
Hmm.
And he's one of the last survivors. Most of the people involved in that movie have died, unfortunately, because it's so old. Um, but I'll give you a little hint, okay? One of the things I said, John, I said, how is it that this film became public domain? It's not old enough. So here's the story, and you can use it. What happened was in those days, it wasn't the film that was copyrighted. It was each individual print. That's the way the law was written. So if you had a print of the film, it had to have a copyright notice on it. And if it didn't, it was not copyrighted. Evidently, when they were mass producing these prints, about a dozen of them came off. And it was always at the tail end of the film. It's usually with the last scene before it goes to black, they'll have a little copyright,
Hmm.
Roman numerals. It didn't have that on there. And some of the people in the movie business picked this up and they started making copies. And then when they had their own personal copies, and then when VHS and Beta came along, wow, they started making duplicates and selling them. And pretty soon the cat was out of the bag. So Night of the Living Dead is not a public domain film. The individual prints, of which there are now a gajillion, are public domain because of the error in printing the film. And that's a little funny story about that. I'll give you another little thing. When Night of the Living Dead went on television, there were two prints. There were two versions. There was a theater version, which is the full version. Okay. But then there was a television version. And I didn't know this until one day my program director came to me and says, Dick, we're scheduled to show Night of the Living Dead this weekend, but the film came in. I said, well, it's good. It's Wednesday. We're going on Saturday. And by the way, in those days, the films came in on Wednesday or Thursday, and then they actually had to physically cut the film commercials into the film to air it. And then they had to remove them later. That's why the films after a lot got really choppy looking because they had all these splices in them. But anyway, all that's besides the point. But he says, would you have any problem showing a theatrical version of this? I didn't. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, there's a television version and a theatrical version. And I said, what's the difference? He said, not much, but they edited some of the scenes out to make it more palatable for squeamish adults whose kids might be watching. It's like, I don't care. You're the program director. We'll show. So we made a big deal about the fact that we're showing the first theatrical, unedited version of Night of the Living Dead. Now, you know what was? Take a guess. Take a guess what scenes they cut.
The death scene of the mother.
No.
And
Nope.
no.
But keep going. Keep going. You're going down the right path.
Ben's death scene.
No.
No.
Nope.
What
Well, he said,
did they cut out?
wait. Ben, I know the scene. I don't know character so much. Which scene is this?
When he got shot in the end.
No.
No.
That would take away from the. No, I'll tell you what it was. There was two things that got cut out of the film. Remember that one scene where you've got the zombies? Or no, they weren't zombies. They were ghouls. According to George Romero, they were ghouls. They're walking up to the house, and one of them was a naked lady who had a bare butt.
Yeah.
They cut that out. No nudity. Okay, so all right. Then the other scene they cut out. Remember where the guy and the gal drive off? They go fill up their car, and it explodes.
Yes.
And what happens after it explodes?
They died.
What happens after that?
Ben tried to run back to the house.
What happened after that is all the ghouls started eating their intestines and picking out the body parts and all the rest of this stuff. That was what really was over the top. They couldn't allow that to happen on TV. Well, eventually we did. We did that one night. No, and this isn't the home of the FCC, but as my program director says, they go to bed at 10 o'clock.
Mhm.
So, but those are the little trivia pieces you can pick up. At least that's what I do. I always approach a movie at one or two things. If it's a really good movie, I don't want to screw around with it. I want to talk about how good it is and what makes it good, and maybe some little trivia in it. If it's a mediocre movie, yeah, we can have a little fun with maybe some of the stuff that didn't happen, that didn't go quite right or whatever. If it's a really trashy movie, I mean, a movie that just, then you can have a little fun with it and then do. Manos, The Hands of Faith is just one of those great movies that has so much fun trivia about it because it was such an abomination of a production but I love it. I mean, it's a terrible movie, but it's so much fun to host. But I'm prattling around here. I'm sorry.
But do you have any upcoming events you want to talk about?
Well, again, the 26th in the Washington, D.C. area in Silver Spring, Maryland, I'm going to be at the American Film Institute. We'll be showing the 50th anniversary. I'll be live hosting the 50th anniversary presentation of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this will be a beautiful print on the big screen. This is going to be an awesome, awesome event. My events, I'm going to explain it real quickly. We usually open up with about 10 minutes of video clips from either my TV shows or from my internet programs. This time I'm doing a little something different. Within that, I'm doing an interview that I did with Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface. Very fascinating. He talks about his process. This is his first movie, and how he went about it, and his reaction to doing the film, how uncomfortable it was because it was so hot and the hours were so long, and then his reaction when he saw the final product in the theater. Very fun interview. And then I do a quick, about a 5-minute monologue to set it up because Halloween is the following week. Then we do a party game. We can't have a Halloween party without a Halloween party game. And then we go into the movie, and then we show the movie nonstop. And then afterwards we tell them when the next movie is going to be and what it's going to be. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. We usually will have a packed house. So we usually have 300 to 400 people. Sometimes we'll have. I think with this one will probably be a sellout. So, it's a great event. I'm thrilled because they allow me to pick movies that I want to see and put them on the big screen and share with fans. And I think that's awesome. I mean, it really is. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's a lot of fun.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for asking me. Thank you for being there. And to everyone, go visit your show on Rumble. I'm going to go look for it right now. I'm going to go see it. I'm going to see what's going on here.
I'm going to send you a link.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on, and the best to you. And as the Count would say, may all your blood be warm.
All right.
Bye now.
See you, man.